Hello, my name is Kiriath, and firstly, it's like 1,000,000 degrees in here, so if I melt halfway through, I apologise. I'll do my best to not look as though I am dissolving into a puddle as we speak. You will most likely have already watched the first video that went up today, which was the Imperial Knights stuff, the kind of preview of the previews for the Imperial Knights, during which I kind of gushed a lot about how good all this shit looks. Like, it genuinely looks really good. The Dominus class Knights look really good, the Armigers look really good. The fact that there are crazy new weapons, like what appears to be an Ursa's Claw, looks amazing. At the same time, I have a weird amount of cognitive dissonance going on, whereby I am excited by it. I am going to end up doing something with it. I know I am. I'm not going to be able to resist for very long because they look ridiculous. They're right up my alley, and I enjoyed putting together my night and painting it. But at the same time, there is a little part of me that is sitting here, even as someone who has... I keep saying I've got no Xenos army, but that's not true because I still have a box full of orcs upstairs. I don't have any of the vehicles anymore, but I've still got a lot of boys, most of them unpainted. And although, to be honest, that doesn't really matter because the current kit that is out for the orcs is the same kit that I was putting together in third. So, you know. But even as someone who does not have a Xenos army, who does not... I've got a load of Marines over there. You've seen the video of all my Terminators and my various kit badges and stuff, and I've got all the Primaris stuff. I've got the Imperial Knight. I've got a few things still in boxes. My Baneblade is waiting to be assembled. I'll get there eventually. Despite me being primarily Imperium based these days, despite my heretical start with Iron Warriors, the news of the Imperial Knights, even though I knew it was coming, was not disappointing, but there is definitely an element of, oh cool, more Imperium stuff. Great. Yep, that's it's nice. Great. There's an element of disappointment to it, and I cannot shake it. And it seems weird. Like, it probably sounds weird. How do you be excited for something and yet at the same time think to yourself, could we not have something else? I think at this point, to be honest, I'm just getting to the point where I'm not feeling disappointed on someone else's behalf, so to speak, because that would be strange. But we've had things like the Harlequins release, and I think this is what's properly kind of hammered it home for me. The thing that's really kind of made me realise how little I feel Xenos are getting what they should when it comes to the release schedule for 40k for 8th. I lost interest. I'm going to be totally honest. I lost interest in the Harlequin stuff really quickly. And I'm pretty sure part of that loss of interest is because whilst the rules were kind of interesting, you know, the stratagem was kind of interesting, the different mask forms were kind of cool, there's something about a proper full-on model release that drums up excitement. There's something about a faction getting genuinely new things that drums up excitement. And every time we've come to a Xenos army getting their 8th edition codex, a little part of me has been like, okay, surely this one is going to have something. Pretty much every single time I've been like, this one has got to get something, right? And it's just not happened. Like, if you think about it, over the course of 8th, we've had the Primaris stuff, we had the Death Guard stuff as well. I mean, obviously they were the launch babies for 8. We've had the Custodes stuff, we've now had Imperial Knights, we've had the announcement of Sisters of Battle, we've had things like Rogue Trader announced, which is really cool. There's been the return of Necromunda and stuff like that again, which is really cool. But all I can think about in terms of like full-on Xenos releases, in terms of new, like genuinely amazing new stuff, we had a new Necron Cryptek, and we've had a Webway Gate, and have we had anything else? Like, this is a genuine question, because I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, we've got to have more than that, right? There's got to have been more released than that. there's got to have been more Xenos stuff, more models. It can't be just a Cryptek and a Webway gate. You must be missing something. And I may well be. There's a good chance that I've just completely blanked whatever it was, and I'm sitting here thinking, what's the deal? Where's the variety here? And actually, we've had the variety, but for the life of me, I cannot think of any other Xenos stuff that we've seen. And going back and looking through the previews and the announcements and all that stuff, I can't see anything that I've missed. And I think it was the Harlequin stuff that kind of finally made me sit there and be like, yeah, cool. It's another codex, but where's the big stuff? Like, where's the expansion? Where's the meat of it? And then I kind of realised, well, there isn't really any. And that's genuinely disappointing. See, the thing that I found interesting about Forgebane, for instance, is that there's not a hint of power armor in sight. It's Necrons versus Admech, which I thought was actually quite a not brave, like a fairly bold decision from Games Workshop, considering that they generally kind of stick to one particular narrative when it comes to releases of box games like that, and that it didn't really fit that narrative. Admittedly, the Warglaves in there obviously will have helped a lot with sales and stuff, and the new Cryptek was a pleasant surprise. But overall, even as someone who is not a Xenos player, who does not have a Xenos army, who is, I'm not massively, I'm just not massively fussed in general. There's not really been anything that's kind of made me sit there and go, I have to collect that. I've had a few things where I'm like, I really like the idea of that, but I've never pulled the trigger. There's never been enough to really push me over that edge of actually spending the money. I just feel like at this point, I'm getting a little bit bored of releases for the overall faction that I have the most to do with. I mean, if you think about it, I've got the Space Marines, I've got Primaris, I've got a Knight, I've got a Baneblade ready to be done, I've got Van Saar as well sitting there that needs to be put together. I grabbed some Custody stuff, although I'm doing something different with those now. In terms of the overall umbrella of Imperium, I can't argue that I don't buy the models, because I do. I can't argue that I don't like it, because I do. Obviously I do, because that's where the vast majority of my stuff is. But even as someone with that, even as someone who has that stuff, who plays that faction, every time we get to a new Xenos release, I kind of sit there and I'm like, okay, this time there's got to be something big. And then it just doesn't happen. And that's where I'm at with this weird kind of cognitive dissonance with the Knights. I'm excited for Knights. I'm absolutely excited for Knights. I was hoping I wouldn't be, and I thought maybe that I wouldn't be that bothered. But actually, I'm kind of very taken with them now, as it turns out. At the same time, even as I'm looking at them, and even as I'm reading about them, and even as I'm thinking to myself, okay, would I stick with the colour scheme that I've got for the current one? Would I spice it up a little bit? Would I create a bit of variation? Is there anything I do differently for new ones? Would I want to kit bash them more? In the back of my head, there's also a little part of me that's like, yeah, but it's just more fucking Imperium again, isn't it? It's just, it's not more of the same, because it's a different faction. It's a different... it's a different army, it's a different style, I would argue, from the vast majority of other armies. But at the same time, it's just more Imperium stuff. And I get that it sells better. I know that it sells better. But even that is the source of a little bit of irritation, because it sells better because it's pushed more. It's pushed more because it sells better, and as a result you have this kind of cycle of, well, this stuff's doing well, we should make more of it. Okay, we'll do that, which then means that other stuff gets pushed further along. It's going to sound like a weird kind of assumption to make, but when the Ideneth Deepkin stuff arrived, there were quite a few people who didn't like that, but I thought it was one of my favourite things Games Workshop has done for a bit, because it was so outlandish and so out there, and I also thought it was so well done. I kind of looked at that and I was like, there's like massive potential here. The overall quality, the overall standard that Games Workshop is at now is so much higher, it's so much better, there's so much more they can do, and they're clearly willing to just go off the deep end and do mad stuff, and it's paying off. It looks great. Think of what this could do for stuff like the Xenos races. Think of the things they could make. Think of the changes they could make to kits. Think of the reimaginings they could do of older units or older styles. And then it's just never really occurred. Now, in a way, it could be said, well, Kerry, you're not jumping the gun a little bit here. We don't have all the codexes out yet, which is something I've said myself over and over again when people get really kind of pissed off about a lack of Xenos codex. It's like, well, we don't have all of them yet. They will get there eventually. But I feel like the release of the first codex of the new edition is such a great time to push the faction. It's such a great time to come out with a new model, to come out with a new range, to come out with new characters, new vehicles. And for so much stuff, that opportunity's just kind of slipped by. Imperial Knights have got a huge expansion with this. Custodes went from being nothing to a fully fledged army. But at the same time, Eldar is sitting there with half their range in gash resin. Orcs are sitting there with models from Gorka Morka, for God's sake. Harlequins, they look good, but is there nothing that could have been done to expand on them a little bit for their first codex of 8th? But it wasn't. It was just, here's a web gate, off you go. I'm not going to say it's not good enough, because obviously so much of this is dependent on sales and costs in terms of development and all of that stuff, which I don't have access to any of that, obviously, because I'm not employed by Games Workshop to look at those figures, so why would I know? But as someone who has just an appreciation for the hobby and the setting overall, not just for one specific faction, there is a little part of me that's like, okay, the thing I like is getting something new, and that's cool, but what about all of these people? Like, what about all these people who don't play Knights? What about these people who don't care about Custodes? What about all these people who don't give a shit about Primaris? What about the people who are sitting there with half the range in resin? What about the people who, want Death Copters that aren't from fucking 2nd edition or whatever it is? It's just, it's weird. It's weird because it feels like I'm complaining about getting something that I want. But the complaint isn't that I'm getting something that I want, it's that it feels as though there is a significant number of people out there who just aren't getting anything. It's not that they're not getting what they want, they're just not getting anything. They're getting a new book and then they're being told, there you go, that's your lot, and we'll see you in, maybe 2 years for an update. I don't know, it just feels a bit off, it feels a bit strange, and it's a weird kind of double think where I'm kind of sitting there getting excited for the new release of something that I'm interested in, and simultaneously thinking, could we not have done something for someone else this time? I don't know, this has been a bit rambly, but I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how to clarify it into something that makes more sense than that, because that's basically what it boils down to, being happy about getting something that I want, while simultaneously being disappointed that other people just don't seem to be getting shit, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's the first kind of installment in Cognitive Dissonance, the series. Enjoy. Probably didn't enjoy. Yeah, I mean, if you do you know what I mean? Am I just rambling nothing, or does that make sense? This is genuinely a question. Let me know if that did make sense, or whether you just think I'm talking shit, or indeed if both of those things are true. It's entirely possible. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all the things, or don't. It's up to you. Either way, it's your life. Do what you like. And yeah, I'll see you for the next one. Toodaloo.